How the war in Ukraine changed the world forever. The Ukraine conflict did not merely reignite the embers of Cold War-era tensions. It unleashed a firestorm that has laid bare the vulnerabilities and fragilities of the modern international order. The war has become a crucible, testing alliances, reshaping economies, and challenging the supremacy of established powers. This is not just a regional skirmish, but a global confrontation that is recalibrating the axes of power and influence. In the Middle East, the war has emboldened Russia's strategic alliances with Iran and Syria, nations long antagonistic towards Western hegemony. This trio now forms a more cohesive front, countering US influence and reshaping the balance of power in the region. Moscow's military and economic support for these regimes has fortified their positions, challenging US and Israeli interests in the region. Saudi Arabia and other OPEC nations have found themselves in a precarious dance, balancing their historically strong ties with the US against the pragmatic necessity of maintaining relations with Russia, a major player in global energy markets. The refusal of OPEC to bow to US pressures to increase oil production highlights a growing assertiveness and a shift towards a more multipolar energy order. The conflict has dramatically disrupted global energy markets, leading to soaring oil prices. Middle Eastern oil producers have seized this moment to enhance their economic leverage, negotiating from a position of strength. This leverage has allowed them to pursue more favorable trade deals and assert greater influence on the global stage. As Europe scrambles to reduce its dependency on Russian energy, Middle Eastern countries have emerged as key alternative suppliers. This has accelerated infrastructure projects such as pipelines and LNG terminals, fundamentally altering the energy landscape and cementing the Middle East's role as a pivotal energy hub. The volatility induced by the Ukraine conflict has prompted a surge in military spending across the Middle East. Countries are bolstering their arsenals with advanced weaponry, preparing for potential escalations and safeguarding against the spillover effects of the war. The region has become a theatre for proxy wars, with Russia and the US vying for influence. The conflict in Yemen, the Syrian civil war, and tensions in Lebanon and Iraq are all arenas where this broader geopolitical struggle is playing out, each side supporting its proxies to undermine the other. The Ukraine war has drawn China and Russia closer, forging a strategic partnership that challenges Western dominance. Joint military exercises, economic deals, and political support underscore a relationship that is reshaping Asia's geopolitical landscape. This alliance is not just a marriage of convenience, but a concerted effort to counter US influence and create a new power bloc. The Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, has gained new momentum as China exploits the instability caused by the conflict to expand its influence. By developing alternative trade routes that bypass conflict zones, China is securing its supply chains and extending its reach into Europe, Africa, and beyond. Asian economies have been forced to reconfigure their supply chains to mitigate the disruptions caused by the conflict. This has led to increased intra-Asia trade and the diversification of supply sources, reducing dependence on Western markets and fostering regional economic resilience. Countries like India have adeptly balanced their relations with Russia and the West, leveraging their strategic autonomy to secure advantageous trade deals and military equipment. This balancing act has bolstered India's position as a key regional player and a potential mediator between conflicting blocs. The war has spurred several Asian countries to accelerate their military modernization programs, significantly increasing defense budgets and acquiring advanced technologies. This arms build-up is reshaping the regional security architecture and raising the stakes in potential flashpoints such as the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. Asian nations are navigating a complex diplomatic landscape, balancing their relations between major powers while safeguarding their strategic interests. This diplomatic balancing act has led to a more nuanced and multifaceted approach to international relations in the region. The Ukraine conflict has breathed new life into NATO, revitalizing the alliance as member countries ramp up defense spending and enhance military cooperation. The bids by Finland and Sweden to join NATO underscore the shifting security dynamics and the continent's response to Russian advancement. The European Union has accelerated its efforts to develop independent defence capabilities, reducing reliance on the US and promoting joint military projects. This move towards strategic autonomy is reshaping Europe's defence landscape and its approach to global security. Europe's urgent need to wean itself off Russian energy has led to significant investments in renewable energy sources and the diversification of suppliers from the Middle East, Africa, and the Americas. This strategic pivot is fundamentally altering Europe's energy matrix and reducing its vulnerability to geopolitical disruptions. The EU has fast-tracked energy infrastructure projects, including LNG terminals and cross-border interconnectors, to enhance energy security and resilience. These projects are critical in ensuring a stable and diversified energy supply for the continent. The comprehensive sanctions imposed on Russia have had a profound economic impact, leading to inflation and energy crises across Europe. These measures have also driven European countries to innovate and seek new economic partnerships, reshaping the continent's economic landscape. The conflict has both unified and divided Europe. While there is strong solidarity in supporting Ukraine and imposing sanctions on Russia, internal divisions persist regarding the extent and nature of this support. These divisions reflect broader debates about the future direction of the European Union and its role in global politics. The expansion of BRICS to potentially include countries like Turkey, Indonesia, Hungary, and Serbia would significantly erode US influence in key regions. These countries might shift their geopolitical alignments away from the US, reducing its ability to project power and influence global policies through traditional alliances. A strengthened BRICS bloc would provide a formidable counterbalance to US-led economic institutions like the IMF and World Bank. This increased competition could accelerate the shift towards a multipolar economic order, challenging the US dollar's dominance in global trade. The US faces increased geopolitical challenges as a more robust BRICS alliance, with strategic members from Europe and Asia, undermines its efforts to isolate Russia and China. This complicates US foreign policy and strategic objectives, necessitating a re-evaluation of its global strategy. Countries joining BRICS might engage in sophisticated diplomatic balancing acts, leveraging their positions to extract concessions and benefits from both BRICS and Western powers. This will lead to more complex and multifaceted international relations, challenging US diplomacy. The conflict has accelerated the decoupling between Western and Eastern blocs, with countries seeking to build self-sufficient economic networks and enhance their military capabilities. This trend towards decoupling is reshaping global trade, investment, and security paradigms. The ideological battle between democracy and authoritarianism, as framed by the West and East respectively, will continue to shape international discourse and policy decisions. This polarization is fostering a new era of ideological competition that will influence global governance and international norms. The alliances and partnerships formed or strengthened during the conflict are likely to endure, shaping global politics for decades. NATO's renewed cohesion and the burgeoning BRICS cooperation exemplify this shift. These realignments will redefine global power structures and influence international relations. Sanctions and counter-sanctions have led to a gradual economic decoupling between Western and Eastern blocs. This trend may continue, with countries seeking to reduce dependence on adversaries and build self-sufficient economic networks. The resulting economic blocs will compete for dominance, reshaping global trade and investment flows. The conflict has sparked an arms race, with countries increasing defence budgets and modernising their military capabilities. This trend is expected to continue, contributing to global instability. The proliferation of advanced weaponry and the intensification of military rivalries will heighten the risk of conflicts and complicate efforts to maintain international peace. The ideological battle between democracy and authoritarianism will continue to shape international discourse and policy decisions. This polarization will influence the strategies of global governance institutions and international organizations, creating a fragmented and contested global order. The East-West rivalry is likely to manifest in other regions through proxy wars and regional conflicts, further complicating global peace efforts. These proxy battles will become arenas where major powers test their influence, supply weapons, and provide support to allied factions, thereby escalating tensions and prolonging conflicts. The war in Ukraine has given Iran an opportunity to strengthen its geopolitical influence. With Russia's support, Iran has bolstered its position in Syria and Lebanon, challenging both US and Israeli influence in the region. This alignment with Russia also means increased military cooperation, including potential deals for advanced weaponry and technology transfers. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and other Gulf states have become adept at balancing their relationships with the US and emerging powers like China and Russia. These nations are leveraging their strategic importance in global energy markets to secure favorable terms and diversify their alliances, reducing over-reliance on Western support. The Ukraine conflict has underscored the strategic importance of oil, with Middle Eastern producers using their energy resources as a geopolitical weapon. By manipulating production levels and prices, they can exert pressure on both Western and Eastern powers, ensuring their interests are prioritized in global negotiations. In response to the volatility in traditional energy markets, Middle Eastern countries are also investing heavily in renewable energy projects. This shift aims to future-proof their economies and maintain their relevance in a decarbonizing global economy. China has seized the opportunity presented by Western sanctions on Russia to deepen economic ties with Moscow. This includes increased imports of discounted Russian oil and gas, bolstering China's energy security while supporting the Russian economy. The conflict has also accelerated technological collaboration between China and Russia, particularly in areas such as artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and military technology. This partnership is a direct challenge to Western technological superiority. India's approach to the conflict has been marked by a careful balancing act. While maintaining its strategic partnership with Russia, India has also strengthened ties with the US and other Quad members, Australia and Japan, to counterbalance China's influence in the Indo-Pacific. Southeast Asian nations, particularly within ASEAN, have generally adopted a neutral stance, focusing on maintaining regional stability and economic growth. However, they are increasingly engaging with both China and the US, seeking to avoid being caught in the crossfire of great power rivalry. The war has accelerated efforts by Asian economies to diversify their supply chains away from dependence on Western markets. This includes enhancing regional trade agreements such as the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which encompasses China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and ASEAN countries. Significant investments in infrastructure projects, particularly those under China's Belt and Road Initiative, are reshaping economic landscapes across Asia. These projects are not only improving connectivity, but also increasing China's influence over regional economies. Europe's urgent need to reduce reliance on Russian energy has led to a diversification strategy that includes renewable energy, LNG imports from the US and Qatar, and increased investment in nuclear power. This energy transition is reshaping the continent's energy policy and infrastructure. European countries are also focusing on building strategic reserves and enhancing energy efficiency. Initiatives such as retrofitting buildings, promoting electric vehicles, and improving grid infrastructure are aimed at reducing energy consumption and increasing resilience against supply disruptions. The invasion of Ukraine has, in many ways, unified European nations in their response to Russia. This includes unprecedented sanctions, military aid to Ukraine, and coordinated efforts to support refugees. However, this unity is tempered by varying levels of dependence on Russian energy and differing national interests. The economic strain caused by the war, including rising energy prices and inflation, has fueled populist and nationalist movements across Europe. These movements often exploit dissatisfaction with EU policies and advocate for a more isolationist approach, potentially threatening the cohesion of the Union. The conflict has revitalized NATO, with member countries committing to increased defense spending and enhanced military cooperation. This has included the deployment of additional troops to Eastern Europe and increased joint exercises to deter further Russian advancement. The EU has accelerated its efforts towards strategic autonomy, developing its own defense capabilities independent of NATO. This includes the European Defence Fund and permanent structured cooperation initiatives aimed at fostering greater defence collaboration among EU member states. The expansion of BRICS, including potential new members such as Turkey, Indonesia, Hungary and Serbia, represents a significant challenge to US global dominance. These countries' alignment with BRICS indicates a shift away from the US-led unipolar order towards a more multipolar world. The strengthened BRICS bloc poses a direct economic and military challenge to US influence. With their combined resources and strategic locations, these countries can create alternative power centers that rival US hegemony. The inclusion of countries like Turkey, a key NATO member in BRICS, could complicate US diplomatic efforts. This dual alignment might lead to conflicting interests, reducing the effectiveness of NATO and challenging US strategic objectives. The conflict has accelerated the trend of economic decoupling between the West and emerging powers. This includes reducing reliance on the US dollar and Western financial systems and developing parallel economic structures that diminish US economic leverage. The war has intensified the ideological battle between democracy and authoritarianism. This polarization is reshaping global alliances and influencing the strategies of international organizations, creating a fragmented and contested global order. The conflict has sparked an arms race, with countries increasing defense budgets and acquiring advanced military technologies. This proliferation of weaponry raises the risk of conflicts and complicates efforts to maintain international peace. The Ukraine war has set in motion a series of changes that are fundamentally altering the global order. The conflict has intensified East-West confrontations, reformed alliances, and empowered countries seeking to challenge the US-led unipolar system. As the world adjusts to these shifts, it becomes increasingly clear that we are moving towards a more complex and multipolar global landscape. The strategic realignments, economic decoupling, and military build-up resulting from the Ukraine war suggest a future marked by heightened geopolitical competition and instability. The ideological battle between democracy and authoritarianism will continue to shape international discourse, influencing global governance and international norms. As regional conflicts and proxy wars proliferate, the international community faces the daunting task of navigating this new multipolar reality. Sustained diplomatic engagement, compromise, and robust international cooperation will be crucial in addressing the challenges and seizing the opportunities presented by this new world order. The Ukraine war has indeed changed the world forever, leaving an indelible mark on global politics, economics, and security. Its legacy will shape the contours of international relations for decades to come, heralding an era of profound transformation and uncertainty. Stay informed and engaged. If you found this video insightful, please share it, join the discussion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video. Thank you for watching.